Okay, broadcast is started. Just going to give people a chance to file in here before I go through a few technical details. So just a moment here. All right, and I'm also going to type this out, but I just wanted to welcome everyone to today's coffee break. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. Before I hand it off to our moderator today, I just want to cover some technical logistics. First of all, to actually interact with the panelists, you'll want to use the chat feature or the Q&A feature. Your microphones and videos are disabled by default, and we don't plan on enabling them. So if you have any kind of comment, or if you want to just start a discussion with other attendees, or have a technical issue for that matter, you can use the chat feature. Just as a reminder, in the to area, there's a drop down there, so you can direct it to all attendees, or you can make it a private chat or to a specific group like the panelists themselves. If you have a question related to the content, we're going to ask that you use the Q&A function of your webinar dashboard. Makes it much easier for us to handle what's been asked. You can ask questions there anonymously, and other people can see them and add their own comments and even upvote them. So that kind of helps us figure out what to prioritize when we get to the Q&A section. So without further ado, I want to hand it off to Leslie, your moderator for the day.
Hi everyone, my name is Annetta Stroud. I'm the Associate Director for Content and Curriculum, and I'd like to welcome everyone to today's AACRAO Coffee Break, CXC Examinations and the Impact of COVID-19. Due to some technical difficulties, our moderator for the day, Wesley, will be popping in when her Wi-Fi allows her to do so. So again, thank you so much for everyone joining us today, where we are going to talk about the CXC examinations and the impact of COVID-19. It's a pleasure to be on the line with all of you today as we navigate the challenges presented by COVID-19 in this crisis together. Next slide, please. Today we have colleagues representing the Caribbean Examinations Council, or CXC, to share with us how the CXC is dealing with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. Joining us today, we have Dr. Wesley, Registrar and CEO of the CXC, along with Dr. Carol Granston, Deputy Registrar and Deputy CEO of the CXC, as well as Nicole Manning, Director of Operations Examination Services with the CXC. They will be giving an overview of their protocols and procedures, discuss adaptations to the 2020 examination cycle, and will be able to answer your questions about what this means for your Caribbean students. I especially want to thank these dedicated colleagues who have given us their time and expertise while navigating the crisis within their own organization during this time. Thank you all so much for being with us today. Next slide, Mike.
And I think Leslie might have rejoined.
Fantastic. It would be my pleasure to turn it back over to Leslie.
Thank you so much, Annetta. Oh boy, is it challenging in these times with Wi-Fi and internet connections. So I'm back. Don't be surprised if something else intervenes, but I'd like to call your attention to our next slide. As you're navigating the challenge in this crisis, your association, AACRAO, is here to connect with network colleagues to work through challenges together in this time of unprecedented disruption in our profession. To wit, we have opened up our content vaults to the higher education community through our free membership option. If your membership has lapsed, or if there are others on campus you want to have access to our resources to support you through this transition, we hope you'll consider this option. And what that option is completely free membership between now and June 30th. So if you'd like more information, you can click through to the URL that's on the slide here, or email us at membership@acrao.org. Next slide, please. AACRAO has worked diligently to provide specific guidance to institutions as they navigate decision-making on their campuses to adapt and serve their students. To build our guidance, we are using established AACRAO standards and best practices and re-envisioning them through the lens of the current COVID-19 crisis. We then consult with subject matter experts from our board of directors and among the membership and across higher education. So who is that guidance team? It consists of Executive Director Mike Riley, Deputy Director Melanie Gottlieb, Associate Executive Directors Tom Green and Tina Deneen, and Director of Research Wendy Kilgore, all former campus-based professionals with years of experience, as well as Director of Government Relations, William Gill. While this isn't the way that AACRAO typically releases new guidance, we are balancing our processes of member development with the need to address the current crisis with something immediate to support you as you navigate this new normal. We want to give you guidance that is thoughtful and well-developed, yet timely. If you have suggestions for the guidance team to consider, please don't hesitate to contact us through the contact form at acrao.org/COVID-guidance. Next slide, please. And now I'd like to turn the mic over to Dr. Wesley.
Thank you very much, Leslie. Can I now share, but you'd have to stop sharing for me to do that?
Mike, can you unshare, please?
Okay, there you go, thanks.
I found a few locations for dance near you.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thanks, Doctor.
All right, very good. And thanks for having me. And is that Annetta and Michael and Leslie? Thanks for having me sharing with your community of educational institutions that do depend on the Caribbean region for persons attending their institutions and would be interested in the administration of examinations within the region. Certainly, it's a pleasure for us here at CXC to be able to share with you the strategy that we have employed given the impact of COVID-19 on the region. My colleagues that are with me, you would have already been introduced to, Dr. Carol Granston, the Registrar and Deputy CEO, and Mrs. Nicole Manning, who is the Director of Operations, and both will assist me when it comes on to the question and answer section. So I'll quickly walk you through this presentation, and after which we can be engaged. Now, it's really in three parts. Our objective for why we are employing this strategy, as well as the modified examination approach and the schedule flexibility that exists with what we are doing. So what's the objective? First, we want to determine determination and issuance of valid grades for candidates. We also want to make sure that the administration of our examinations is done through the utilization of a mechanism compliant with the national protocols and the COVID-19 health advisory. And of course, to ensure that grades are prepared in a timely manner, facilitating matriculation to higher education or engagement in employment opportunities. So then, what is the modified approach? The modified approach has 4 steps to it. First, candidates will be required to submit their SBA, which is the school-based assessment. And in this case, we would have offered an extension for that SBA to be submitted, given the disruption in the school system and persons need to at least get back in to complete their SBA, school-based assessment. Then secondly, the moderation of these SBAs will now see a more extensive moderation process. We're requiring all schools and all centers to submit their SBAs for moderation, 100%. And the third component is examinations administration, and in this case, the paper 1, and in some instances, where the paper 2 would be required for those administration. And so paper 1 is our multiple choice paper. And of course, so when you look at this modified approach, we went with the common paper, the multiple choice assessment, because it is important that the public bodies such as the Caribbean Examinations Council, the administration of assessment across countries, it is imperative that a common measure or paper be administered. And secondly, in addition to that, a common paper structure for the examination is required to facilitate assessment comparison across years. So having done all of that, we then get to the final grading, which will look at us combining the school-based assessment as well as the paper 1. And that grading will see us utilizing statistical standardization of students' earned scores from paper 1 and paper 3 to award candidates grade. And when I talk about paper 3, we're talking about the school-based assessment. In addition, there will be further analysis to be conducted throughout the moderation and grading processes to ensure that candidates are treated fairly and in an unbiased manner. Of course, facilitating comparison of distribution of current year with previous years by region, territory, and center. All of that is critical as we seek to ensure that our grades are actually valid and reliable. Now, this modified approach would have received approval from COSAD Education on May 8th for this modified approach to be administered in July. And for those of you who might not be familiar with COSAD, COSAD is actually the Council of Human and Social Development for Education. And this council is made up of ministries of education across the region, led by their respective ministers. So the ministers across the region would have come together, and the decision was made to accept the modified examinations approach and for it to be administered in July, with results being released in September. Now, there's some amount of flexibility in the schedule because of COVID-19 and the different situation being experienced across the region. Now, because we are regional, we have to get even greater consensus depending on what is happening with COVID-19. So if we administer the first week of July, the results will be ready the first week of September. If we administer the second week of July, the results will be ready the second week of September. And if we go to the fourth week of July, results will be ready the first week of October. Right now, there's consensus coming towards that second week of July, but we are still working through that with all our member states to make sure that we arrive at a generally agreed time that is convenient for all, for us to be able to offer those examinations. And I'm quite sure, pretty hopefully by the end of this week, I'm able to say definitively what that position is. So all of this flexibility, as I said, is guided by the national protocols across the region, as well as COVID-19 advisory. And of course, we would have been encouraging our local registrars who work with us for the administration of the examinations to ensure that in students coming to write these examinations, that they follow the advice, wear a mask whenever in public, practice social distancing, and sanitize hands and surfaces as we seek to create a safe environment within which students are able to write their examinations. And of course, this safe environment is one of paramount interest to us, and we are ensuring that our number one priority is the health and safety of not only our invigilators and workers, but that of the students. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I know I'm back to, is that Leslie?
Dr. Wesley, thank you so much for that excellent information. Very useful for our institutional-based colleagues. I have lost the video of this Zoom meeting, although I'm assuming you can hear me in the audio portion. So I would like to ask Annetta to moderate the questions for us, please.
And we can hear you, so I'll wait for Annetta to hop on here.
Hi, everyone. This is Annette again. And actually, I do believe that Leslie has some questions that she received from a couple of individuals who were not able to be with us here today. So because of that, I'm actually going to go ahead and turn it back over to Leslie so she can read out those questions.
Thank you, Annetta. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Yeah, sorry. Yes.
Great, thank you. Sorry about all these difficulties I'm having. So for our CXC colleagues, AACRAO institutional members typically have a lot of nuts and bolts questions about academic documents, and one person wanted to know if hard copy transcripts are now available.
So Nicole, can you respond to that for me, please? But
Yes. Should I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
Please do.
Okay, good afternoon. So yes, hard copy transcripts are now available. The request can also be made through the website. I must also add that electronic copies are also available.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Manning. That was the next question. As the flip side of the hard copy transcript question, are electronic transcripts available? This colleague also wanted to know what form they take. Is that a blockchain? Is it HTML? Is it PDF? How do you send
It's
electronic
PDF.
transcripts?
PDF.
It's PDF? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But we
Excellent.
have the necessary
Okay.
security.
Excellent. Okay, so secure PDF. Thank you. Another question that came in was, will virtual or online testing be available as an alternative to in-person testing?
Should I take that, Dr. Wesley?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So online testing is available as well as the paper.
Okay. Thank
But
you,
this is
Dr.
going to be,
Granston.
this is totally dependent on the school indicating that they will do the test online. Because in our dialogue and deliberations, some region expressed concern about having the requisite infrastructure and others, but so it depends on what the region wants. But it will be available in both modalities.
Okay, so it will vary from country to country depending on the exam officials in the particular region?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see, here's another question from a colleague. If students are already at university in the US when the test is, when the test is administered, say whether it's administered in September or another time, will students be expected to return to the Caribbean to take the exam, or will they be exempt from the exam?
Okay, so we do have a system of proctoring where established institutions in the United States or elsewhere who would establish a partnership with us, they will be able to facilitate any kind of proctoring for that exams to be administered. So if that arrangement is in place, then students don't necessarily have to return to write their examinations. But it is that it has to be clear early so that the requisite partnership and systems will be put in place to accommodate In those instances, however, it is highly likely that once the exam is electronic, then the partner that we'll work with would want them to do it via the electronic modality.
Okay.
Mhm.
And as a follow-on to that, how would a U.S. institution become a partner institution with the CXC?
Well, they would have to contact us, and we do the requisite due diligence in terms of a form and the requisite due diligence in ensuring that the organization exists and fair and would be what they have indicated they are. And of course, just making sure that we are working with a reputable organization. So there's a process, there's a form. I mean, from this you can take our, you would have been in contact with Richard, is Leslie or Leslie or Michael, which of you would have been in contact with Richard? You can always get his email and we can share that. Or Nicole, I don't know. Nicole, is there email available for them to persons who are interested in becoming Proctoring partners? Yeah.
Yes, they can submit the request.
Yeah, but I'm saying, is there an email directly to you, or they should just go through Richard? And
no, through Richard, as we have been doing it, right?
Okay.
But
okay. So what I understand, excuse me.
Go ahead,
Nicole.
No, I was just about to
say.
Go ahead,
Nicole.
Right, I was just about to say that if a student is going to be transferred, then we normally work with our local registrars because they would have already been registered to the particular country. And we do have a system in place to facilitate, as Dr. Wesley was saying. So it's through the local registrars that we have in the various countries in terms of the facilitation of the individual being transferred to another location and the exams being done there. So there's actually a system.
Okay, and also just in conclusion for that question, I think Dr. Wesley, you were saying that Richard Rose, your communications manager, could be a contact for facilitating this relationship between a U.S. institution and the CXC for proctoring exams. Does that sound right?
Yes, for purposes of this group that we would have been communicating with, Richard would be the best contact right now, who will then pass it on directly to the unit, and so the documents and the forms and all that would have been required would be forwarded to that institution.
Great. Okay, thank you. If any of our institutional colleagues who are listening to this are interested in that, they can certainly follow up with AACRAO and we can get you the contact information that you would need to set up a proctoring relationship with the CXC. Let's see, here's a very specific question about CAPE. If students are unable to take the multiple choice exam, will they still get a final transcript with their final CAPE scores?
Nicole, yes, so the transcripts are printed with the relevant information. The transcripts are printed, right.
Okay, great. So the transcript will accompany the final CAPE certificate. Okay. Let's see, if a student sends a copy of their results, can they be verified online? Do you have an online verification service?
Could you repeat that question, please?
Yes. If a student sends a copy of their results, can they be verified online?
Not at this time. The student themselves, once the results are ready, will be able to view their results online as preliminary.
But, so may I support you on that, Chair?
Go ahead.
Right, so in relation to the results, those final results, so you are correct, Reg, on the fact that the students would have gotten their preliminary results, and we can do the those results can be validated through us.
Okay.
That currently happens.
So,
So in other words, you can't go online and check it yourself. There will have to be a request to us, right, Nicole?
Yes, Reg.
okay. Thank you. I think that was a good answer there. I have one final question. For an electronic transcript, I think I know the answer to this. Can it be printed from the website or saved as a PDF and printed out?
So the electronic transcript is sent? Is that what you're saying, Wesley?
Yes.
Right, they can, right. So the school, on its receipt, they can print it.
Okay, so you will send a secure PDF by email to the person at the receiving institution who has been designated, and that institution or that colleague can then print that transcript out. Is that correct?
You are correct, but it's going to the
institution. Good. Directly to the institution. Okay, great. Annetta, those are the questions that I had noted. Do we have any others come in?
Leslie, we don't. You got them all.
Okay. Well then, if we don't have any other questions, to my CXC colleagues, do any of you have any final notes you'd like to stress about this that you think U.S. institutions need to know?
Well, I think I think we would have answered the main question about the availability of results. And I think for students to matriculate, that would have been the primary concern. As I said to you, we are still yet to just finalize exactly when. We are very close at that date. But certainly we are hoping that at the end of the process, by September, all grades should be ready.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much. This concludes the Q&A portion of the presentation. I really want to thank our knowledgeable CXC colleagues from being willing to share their time and expertise with us. Before we conclude today, we have a couple more pieces of information that we'd like to share with the audience. So Mike, if you could cue up slide 7, please.
All set.
Thank you. So as we close, we wanted to point out a special opportunity for those of you who may need more specific and tailored guidance. AACRAO Consulting has marshaled expertise to offer heavily discounted express consulting sessions priced at $995 to support your unique challenges with seasoned expertise and actionable recommendations. If you're interested in this opportunity, you can contact consulting@acrao.org for more information. Next slide, please.
Yep, we're there.
Okay, thanks. I also wanted to remind everybody that we have a fantastic coffee break coming up on Friday. That topic is protecting your institutions from academic record fraud. So while we're all very busy trying to protect our health and our families and get our work done in a stressful new environment, the question is, who is protecting our institutions from academic credential fraud? This is prime time for fraudsters from near and far, domestic and international, who are checking to see if you're paying attention to the documents that they want you to accept. Join your AACRAO Fraudbuster colleagues for reminders about staying focused on your work and support in doubling down on the due diligence. You can find more information about, in general, about AACRAO coffee breaks at acrao.org/COVID guidance, as well as tons of information about best practice and recommendations for protocols and practices at your institution. Next slide. So we'd like to extend a special thank you, especially to our knowledgeable colleagues at the CXC who have shared their time and expertise with us today. As for the audience, we hope that you've learned a lot from today's webinar and that AACRAO will continue to be a place where we can join together to share information, strategies, and best practices in these challenging times. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, and we hope to see you again soon here at acrao.org. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.